99% of the time, all the questions that DBAs are unable to answer in an interview is because the question is wrong, but you lack the ability of trying to justify whether the question is right or wrong. And that's where the biggest trap lies in. Welcome back, guys. Arun this side with another episode of Daily DBA Show, and today I have like 6 questions that I'll be answering right away on this video. And I guess this will be the shortest episode that we ever had till date, because these questions are simple, effective, important, and I'll be giving to the point answers to these questions. And as I see the spike in the number of emails that I'm getting, as I see the spike in the number of people contacting me in order to get their questions answered, I guess I would still recommend each one of you to continue to send me your questions. Email me at support@dbagenesis.com. Send me your doubts, queries, anything that is related only to Oracle DBA. Alright. Apart from this, I would also encourage, if you have doubts on Oracle Cloud, AWS Cloud, database migrations, anything in those zones also, please send me emails. I would love to answer those emails on these daily episodes. Now, that being said, let us start our today's episode with the first question of the day. I would like to replicate one table from DB1 to DB2 and both the databases reside on same server. How can I achieve it? So my focus would be on this word called replicate, because there is a difference between replicate and, or we can call it as replication and cloning. So what is the difference? See, replication means continuous cloning. So at source, if there is update to data, the same data must go on to target. That is called replication. Every action that is happening on source must be copied onto the target. That is known as replication. But the difference between replication and cloning is something you just copy one time, but the future actions or updates, deletes on some data will not be copied onto target. That is cloning. So cloning is one-time activity. You clone, you create a copy, duplicate copy, but whatever future transactions that happens at source will not be copied onto the cloned database or table, right? So this question states, I would like to replicate one table from database 1 to database 2. So replication means, I believe, and just correct me if I'm wrong, I'm taking it as like you have a table 1 in database 1 and you want to create a replicated copy of table into database 2. That means whenever there are changes that are made onto the table 1 in the database 1, those same commands or changes must be brought onto the table on DB2, right? I mean database 2, because DB2 is a different database vendors. All right. Now in this kind of scenario, I would suggest you can go with materialized views, because they have something called refresh option where it will fetch the records from the source table. So you create a materialized view on the source table. I mean, you have to create the materialized view on the target like database 2, but it has to link to the database 1. So whenever you make some update, delete, insert on the source table, automatically those records will be got from the materialized view refreshes. Now that being said, this is the easiest way. But if your option is just to clone it for one-time activity, then you can always go with export, import or data pump. It's very simple. Alright, so I guess that will help you. So let's move on to the next question. My database stats gathering job was automatically stopped. What could be the reason behind it? I guess one of the main reasons is your database maintenance window got closed even before your stats gathering job could have been completed. That's the one main reason that I generally see on the databases. Now, I would request you to check the DBA auto task job history. Now, when you check this one, you will get to know the reason why, or you might see the error as to why the stats gathering job was terminated. So check that, and if possible send us the, or at least send me the information to support@dbagenesis.com. I would love to see the information why the gather stats job was automatically terminated in your database. All right, so that being said, let's move on to the next question. Interviewer. Oh, looks like this is an interview question that we are getting directly from one of the DBAs. So interviewer asks, let's say primary database size is 500 GB and the target database size is 200 GB. Can we clone it? Me. No. Interviewer. What is the other approach? Me. I was unable to answer. I mean, first of all, I think this question was to try to test you, like how well you know about database cloning, and the way you answered this question simply shows that you do not know anything about database cloning. See, like in one of our previous questions I answered, what is cloning? Cloning is to create a duplicate copy, right? So you have a 500 GB database, and when I say I want to create a clone, that means the final database would also be of 500 GB or TB, whatever the size is. So in this case, the interviewer is telling, like, can you clone a database of 500 GB size onto a target database that is of 200 GB? Like, I mean, it's straightforward. Database, when you clone, database cloning happens with a new name or with the same name as the source in a separate or probably in the same Oracle home location. But how can you try to clone the database? You have a 200 GB database and you are trying to copy this 500 GB database into this 200 GB database. Like, that's not called cloning. It is not cloning. It might be merging activity where you want to merge the 200 GB database with the 500 GB database, or you can call it some other activity, but that's not cloning. The basic meaning of cloning is to create an exact copy. So how do you create an exact copy of the database? You perform the Arman cloning or whatever your method is to clone the database, and you clone from source to target. So if your source is 500 GB, then your target will also be 500 GB. What you have to do with that 200 GB database? Nothing. It will be lying somewhere, right? So this question, interviewer was smart. I think interviewers are getting smarter these days, and they were testing you how well you know about Arman cloning. And the way you answered it, saying like no, like it's not possible to clone from 500 GB to 200 GB, it completely shows that you lack the knowledge of Arman cloning or database cloning or any method of database cloning. For all the DBAs and everyone watching this video, I want you to get the right meaning for cloning. Cloning means creating a duplicate copy, right? So when you are creating a duplicate copy, and if something already exists, like in this case 200 GB database is already existing, what can we do? The interviewer is playing with you, buddy. Be careful. All right, so make sure you get your basics right. And guys, I think I would love to go off the topic for a minute. Like when I see all these questions, right, and when I get so many emails from all of you saying like I faced an interview and I couldn't answer the question, like I'm not surprised at all, because see, if you are not able to answer, that means there is a problem with your understanding of Oracle database, your understanding of the fundamentals, your understanding about the architecture, your understanding about how things work. And then some like silly DBAs, they will send an email like, why not, why can't we do like this, why not we can do like this, why not we can have 100 control files, why can't we store the data from data files into the control files, so we don't need the data files, why do we need parameter file? Like, come on, that's the way things work. I mean, that's how Oracle has been designed. And if you want to question all those stuff and you want to kind of like merge stuff and kind of create your own database, great, go ahead. I mean, I would love to help you in if that's your vision. But as far as you're working with Oracle database, get your basics right. So if your basics is not strong, if you do not know what is the basic meaning of cloning, like forget about interviewers, everyone will play with you. Be careful. Like even if you go and join a company or a project, people will start playing with you. So you have to get your basics right even before you can say whether the question is genuine or not. Most of the times, 99% of the time, all the questions that DBAs are unable to answer in an interview is because the question is wrong, but you lack the ability of trying to justify whether the question is right or wrong. And that's where the biggest trap lies in. And all the interviewers try to make fun of DBAs who do not have the basic or the fundamental knowledge of stuff, or the Oracle DBA or the Oracle database, right? So that being said, the interviewer asked one more thing: what is the other approach? I was unable to answer. Like, come on, you could have said anything else, like export import. I would use export import to perform the cloning. I would use Arman cloning. I would use transportable table spaces. Anything, like you can say any other stuff, right? So over here, like in one of my previous episodes, I talked about this. It is not about, like interviews are not about, or interviews are not like interrogation. It's not Q&A. Like your interviewer will ask you questions and you are just giving the answers. It's your responsibility. If you are facing an interview, you have to ask smart questions. Smart questions will make you appear like an experienced DBA. All right, don't try to keep that stupid face and try not to answer questions. Try to ask smart questions like, okay, what is the distance between the servers? And I guess we also had one DBA challenge on this, right? How can you ask smart questions to the interviewer when it comes to, I guess, Oracle upgrades? Now that being said, let's move on to the next question. All right, so here we have another interview question where interviewer asks, what is the difference between log wait and log gap? Me, for the log gap, the missing of archives in standby is called gap. For log wait, I said the logs are not yet shipped or not yet applied. Is the above answer correct? 100%, let me tell you, if I would have been the interviewer, impossible. Like, I mean, it clearly shows like the lack of understanding of how database works. Like log wait is a wait event. Log gap is to do with data guard. Now, I guess like I don't want to answer this question at all. I would rather ask you to read about what exactly is log wait event, or when log wait event happens inside the database, or what exactly is log wait. All right, I mean, this is not done, guys. If your fundamentals is not good, if your like basic understanding of Oracle database is not good, I think you will be facing interviews like this, and this is what I'm scared of. I mean, 100%, that's the vision I carry. Like, I want to build the biggest DBA community that we all can learn together. But for that also, at least each one of you who's listening, like the person who asked this question and everyone who's listening to this video, get your fundamentals right. End of the day, end of the game. Trust me when I'm hiring someone, all right? It's not about whether the person knows everything about the question that is being asked. It is about the way they are able to approach the answer. So if you are able to approach the answer in an analytical way that justifies your learning pattern, that justifies how good you are at the core of the Oracle database, those all things matters in an interview. It's not about whether you can clone the Arman, clone the database using Arman. it's about your understanding as to what exactly is cloning. All right, nobody is looking for arm and duplicate command in the market. I will never look for a DBA who can clearly tell me the arm and duplicate command, but I will always look for a DBA who has amazing understanding about conceptually how arm and cloning works. Understand? So if these kind of questions I get, and if I am the interviewer, impossible. I mean, these kind of questions disappoint me sometimes, but just to keep everyone energized, I would request you to read about log weight event, and then probably you will have the answer. So let's move on to the next question. So here we have one more interview question. Interviewer, if there is a huge gap between primary and standby, what's the approach? Me. Either we can go for arm and incremental or primary rebuild of standby. Interviewer, is there any other approach? Me. I wrote the full arm and incremental steps. Once again, like in this case also, if I were you, I would have asked some smartest questions to the interviewer that will define my level of knowledge, and sometimes these smart questions will make interviewer understand that you have great deal of knowledge around that particular topic. Like in this case, I would have asked the interviewer like, what is the distance between primary and standby, and do we have storage snapshot based cloning? What is the size of primary, and like where the primary archive logs are stored, is that file system shared? On a normal note, the way you answered is perfectly fine. Like if there is a huge gap between primary and standby, the two most important ways to perform the activity or get the standby in sync with the primary is either you go for an arm and incremental backup, or you go for copying the archive logs from primary to standby and applying manually, right? The third one, rebuilding of the standby, is pretty, I mean, nobody would choose for rebuilding standby when there is a gap, because I think it's a hectic activity. Now understand, if your database size is 20 terabytes, what do you think? Will you go for an arm and cloning or probably rebuilding of the entire DR? Not really, right? So in this kind of scenario, I would suggest, I guess the interviewer was still trying, like, do you still have any other methods? And like this happens, they tend to force you, ask you more deep questions just to see, like, do you have the logical reasoning around that particular topic? So if you tend to give some silly answers, that will define that you are not confident about what you answered. Now in this case, I guess you missed one point. See, the way to resolve gap between primary and standby, there are actually three approaches. The first one is to take the arm and incremental backup and apply it on standby. The second one is pick up the archives from the primary, ship it to standby, apply it over there. This might be a problem when you have huge number of archive logs on the primary, because it's hard to ship and then apply onto the standby, right? The third one is rebuilding of the standby. I guess nobody would go for those kind of activities until unless it's really required. And even if you sometimes go for rebuilding of the standby, still you will have an issue with the archive logs gap, right? Because by the time you clone, start the MRP and try to enable the flashback on standby and also perform some other activities, still the primary might generate great deal of archive logs. So to deal with this one, I guess the simplest answer is the incremental backup. That's the number one. All right. Now that being said, guys, let's take it as one of the DBA challenge. I would like to know from all the experienced DBAs, like, what is the method that you will use in this kind of situation when there is a huge archive log gap between primary and standby. All right. Now, why do you think my energy levels are so high? Because we are nearing to the end of the show and I'm excited for the bonus question. Let's move on to the bonus question of the day. Hey guys, I'm back and we also have Tony with me. So guys, most of the times, I get this question asked very frequently, like how to become a cloud DBA, and I just can't tell you like from where to start. One DBA asked me this question, like, Arun, I want to become a cloud DBA, so from where should I start? I guess if you all want to become cloud DBA, because see, cloud is huge, all right, and for you all to become a cloud DBA or migrate your skill set to cloud, I would not talk about all these steps that you have to take. I'll just talk about the next 3 steps that each one of you should take when it comes to learning or migrating your skill set to cloud. So the first one would be to learn about AWS RDS, all right? Just I'm giving you 3 steps. Make sure you are focusing only on these 3 steps. So unless you complete these 3 steps, please don't ask me questions on how to become a cloud DBA again. And the people who complete all these 3 steps, come back to me, write an email to support@dbagenesis.com, and I would definitely tell you like what are the next 3 steps. So the first step that you have in order to become cloud DBA is to learn about AWS RDS, all right? The second step that you have is how to install Oracle database on AWS EC2 instance, right? That's the second one. The third one is to learn about AWS resource limits. These are the 3 steps that I want each one of you to follow in order for you all to migrate to cloud or to upgrade your skill set to cloud DBA. So let us revise all the 3, right? The first one is to learn about AWS RDS. The second one is to install Oracle database on EC2 instance on AWS. The third one is to learn about AWS resource limits. Alright guys, that being said, I think I'll see you all. I think me and Tony, both of us will see you all in the next Daily DBA episode. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.